Some engines are never mentioned in record books, yet they played a crucial role in American automotive history. The Chevrolet Stovebolt 216 is one of them. It wasn't flashy like a V8, nor as famous as the small block or LS. But the Stovebolt 216 was the engine that carried Chevrolet through its toughest times. From the Great Depression through World War II to the post-war boom. With its simple design, rugged durability, and reliable performance in all conditions, this engine powered millions of Chevrolets, sedans, wagons, pickups, and even military vehicles. And yet today, few people remember it. This is the story of an engine that didn't need speed to become a legend. Just trust, endurance, and unwavering service for more than a decade. To understand why the Chevrolet Stovebolt 216 was so important, we must go back to the late 1930s, a dark but transformative time in American automotive history. After the Great Depression, American consumers drastically changed how they viewed automobiles. Instead of chasing speed or luxury, they began seeking reliability, fuel economy, and ease of maintenance. Chevrolet, then under heavy pressure from Ford's affordable flathead V8, had to evolve. Chevy's old 207 cubic-inch engine, while dependable, no longer met rising expectations for performance and versatility. So in 1937, Chevrolet introduced the all-new Stovebolt 216, an inline-six with 216.5 cubic inches of displacement, overhead valves, and most importantly, easy to build, easy to fix, and built for the working class. More than just a technical upgrade, the Stovebolt 216 wasn't just a technical response. It quickly became part of daily life, finding its way into backyards, rural roads, and the very fabric of American mechanical culture. From that everyday presence came a humble nickname, Stovebolt. And what began as a casual label soon became a lasting cultural symbol across generations. The name Stovebolt came from the distinctive round-headed bolts used in the engine, resembling the kind found on old cast-iron stoves. Any mechanic of the era would recognize them instantly. At first, it was just a technical description, but over time, the name came to represent something more, an engine that was approachable, friendly to work on, and as familiar as everyday American life itself. The Stovebolt 216 wasn't just in garages. It was found on farms, at gas stations, on highways, and even in war zones. It was loved for its simplicity, easy to fix, easy to understand, and never pretentious. The nickname eventually extended to the Chevrolet Advanced Design Pickup Series 1947 to 1953, which also used the 216 engine. And because its impact extended far beyond the factory floor and engineering blueprints, it's time we take a closer look at how the Stovebolt 216 actually worked and why it earned such trust. Behind that Stovebolt nickname lies more than just affection. It represents a surprisingly thoughtful piece of engineering. The 216 may look simple, but it was the result of careful balancing between performance, cost, and real-world maintainability. First, we have an inline-six configuration, a straight six layout. This design naturally balances itself, making for smooth operation, and was easier to manufacture compared to V6 or V8 engines. Its low compression ratio allowed it to run on low-octane gasoline, which was crucial given fuel quality in the 1930s and 40s. The Stovebolt 216 used an overhead valve setup, with valves located above the cylinders and actuated via push rods and rocker arms from a camshaft located below. This was a major improvement over Ford's flathead design, which restricted airflow and reduced efficiency. One standout feature, both an innovation and eventual limitation, was its splash lubrication system. Instead of using a high-pressure oil pump, it relied on moving parts splashing oil inside the engine. This was simple and reliable, but inadequate for high RPM or long-duration performance. In terms of output, the 216 produced around 85 to 92 horsepower at approximately 3,300 RPM and about 170 pound-feet of torque, enough to power sedans and light trucks effectively. It was typically paired with a non-synchronized 3-speed manual gearbox, which required drivers to double-clutch on every gear change. The Stovebolt wasn't built for raw speed. Its strength lay in reliability. It could run for thousands of miles through dust, snow, rain, and mud, and just keep going. When compared to its main rival, the Ford Flathead Fev 8, the 216 lost on paper horsepower, but won in durability, serviceability, and overall cost. While it wasn't the engine of choice for thrill seekers, the Stovebolt 216 had real-world strengths that few engines could match. Those real-world strengths, durability, repairability, and fuel economy, are exactly what made the Stovebolt 216 so valuable to millions of Americans. First, its legendary durability. Many vehicles with this engine ran for 150,000 to 200,000 miles without major overhauls. A remarkable figure for 1940s technology. The simple design minimized failure points, and the cast-iron construction offered excellent resistance to heat and wear. Second, it was incredibly easy to repair. You didn't need to be a mechanic. Just a wrench set and some basic know-how were enough to change spark plugs, adjust valves, or clean the carburetor in your backyard. For rural families and long-haul drivers, this simplicity was a lifeline. Finally, its fuel efficiency was surprisingly good, around 20 to 22 miles per gallon. For a 6-cylinder engine from nearly 90 years ago, that's an impressive number. From city streets to rural farms, from civilian cars to military vehicles, the Stovebolt 216 was everywhere. It was Chevrolet's most widely used engine from 1937 to 1953, powering millions of vehicles across multiple segments. In the passenger car lineup, models like the Chevrolet Master Deluxe, Fleetline, and Styleline all featured the 216 as their standard engine. These were everyday sedans sold in high volume across the US during and after World War II. In the light truck segment, the most iconic application was the Chevrolet Advanced Design Series, 1947 to 1953, especially the Chevy 3100. These pickups were the workhorses of America's heartland, and it was the 216 that gave them their legendary reputation for reliability. The Stovebolt 216 also found its way into early suburban models, the ancestors of today's SUVs, and even a number of light-duty military transport vehicles during World War II, thanks to its reliability and ability to function in harsh environments. Simply put, if you drove a Chevrolet between 1937 and 1953, there's a good chance the heart under your hood was a Stovebolt 216. Despite its popularity and widespread use, the Stovebolt 216 wasn't without flaws, and it was these technical limitations that ultimately brought its nearly 2-decade journey to an end. One of its most significant weaknesses was the splash lubrication system, which relied on mechanical motion to fling oil around the engine instead of using a modern high-pressure oil pump. When new, this system was sufficient at low RPMs. But after tens of thousands of miles especially under high-speed driving. Uneven lubrication often led to worn bearings, crankshaft scoring, and a shortened engine lifespan. The engine's overall design also capped its performance. With only 85 to 92 horsepower and a redline around 3,300 RPM, the 216 couldn't meet the rising expectations of post-war American drivers, who now demanded more power, speed, and hauling capacity. The continued use of non-synchronized transmissions with the 216 also made driving feel outdated, especially as synchronized gearboxes and automatics became more common. Then in 1954, Chevrolet officially replaced the Stovebolt 216 with the 235 engine, a thoroughly modernized version. It retained the inline-six layout, but added full-pressure oiling, more power, 112 to 136 horsepower, depending on configuration, smoother operation, and compatibility with newer transmissions. The 235 didn't just replace the 216, it elevated the Stovebolt lineage. It was found in iconic cars like the Chevrolet Bel Air, early Corvettes, and remained in Chevy trucks through the late 1950s. Though it stopped production over 70 years ago, the Chevrolet Stovebolt 216 continues to leave a lasting legacy, not just in engineering history, but in American car culture as a whole. From a technical standpoint, the Stovebolt 216 laid the foundation for Chevrolet's later inline-six engines, the 235, 250, and 292, all of which earned reputations for durability well into the 1980s. Its OHV layout, low-mounted camshaft, and cast-iron block all trace their roots to the 216. More than just mechanical influence, the Stovebolt helped define Chevrolet's engineering philosophy for nearly half a century. Don't build the most powerful engine, build the most dependable one. One that serves the working class, the truck driver, the soldier. That torque over speed, practicality over flash mindset became Chevy's identity. In the vintage car community, the 216 isn't about drag strips or rare collector's editions. It's viewed as an original soul, a living connection between past and present. Many enthusiasts restore Chevy 3100 pickups, fleet lines, and style lines, and insist on keeping the original 216 instead of swapping in a modern V8, because the feel of the 216 can't be replicated. That distinctive inline-six sound, the steady rhythmic ticking, low-rev torque, it all creates a driving experience that's raw, honest, and deeply nostalgic. It's not just an engine, it's a way of life. In terms of restoration value, vehicles with matching numbers Stovebolts often command higher prices than those with engine swaps. While not as flashy or expensive as high-performance V8s, the 216 holds irreplaceable cultural and historical value in the eyes of collectors. The Chevrolet Stovebolt 216 was never a flashy machine. It didn't win speed records or symbolize status. And maybe that's exactly what made it special. It represented an era when America needed things that were durable, simple, and trustworthy. It didn't try to conquer racetracks, it just got you to work, across the fields, or safely back home after a long day. And even though it's long retired from the spotlight, the Stovebolt 216 still lives, in its warm rumble, in those old pickups growling by the fence line, and in the memories of those who once gripped the wheel of their very first Chevy. What about you? Have you ever driven a vehicle with a Stovebolt 216? Or do you know someone who still owns one today? Share your story in the comments below. And if you love humble machines that quietly made history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to help us bring more forgotten legends back to life.